Good evening, everyone, and welcome to One Resource Floating. I'm the 86, joined by Ben
Yo.
and Kayla
Hello.
and the little flicker in the wind that we all hear every now and again.
I really hope you don't hear me on the wind. That would be terrifying for both of us.
You know what you would hear though? Do you want to split a case?
100% egg.
That's what you would
Y'all
hear on
wild.
the when you're walking to
And
your
then
car.
they would open that case and get 3 legendaries somehow, and I would be better. I think all of us are better.
Just a little better.
86.
Don't be bitter.
Spicy balls are spicy.
Don't be upset.
Even had to bring
Ugh.
show on the camera how much I got. Anyway, so today we're talking about not the legendaries that were pulled. I can't complain. I got a Rampart of the Ram said. But
Yeah.
Now, shameless plug. We're going to talk about Bravo, who is a Guardian, and I pulled a Guardian shield finally. Yay, Arya. We're going to talk about Guardian. I feel like Rampart of the Ram said it's been a thing for a couple weeks that just has been creeping up, and it's got to come out today because I got one and now I talked about it. Anyway, what can you guys tell me about Bravo? What do we know about Bravo? Do we know anything about Bravo?
Specifically, Bravo Showstopper.
Yeah, Bravo Showstopper. There is some affectionately dubbed
Bravo Showstopper.
Yeah.
Young Bravo is always just
Bravo. And then Bravo Showstopper.
That's who we're talking.
He's stopping shows.
Yeah. And some people also are aware of Captain Planet or Starvo. We're not going to talk about those today. Just the OG.
OG Bravo, that's all I like.
We're going to talk about him before he got famous.
Ha.
So.
All right, so because someone talk to me a little bit about
I think Balda's
action 2 resources until end of turn. Your attack action cards with 3 cost or greater gain dominate.
Nailed it.
Balda's crush.
Balda is if you have 3 seismics. Crush gets
Cards with crush.
Whoa.
Crush is Crater Fist, I think. Yes, Crush is Crater
It
Fist.
does. Crater Fist does affect Crush, yes.
Yeah.
So his ability affects not just Guardian attack action.
Mm-hmm. Anything
that costs 3.
Never mind.
Rousing Infants.
Associations.
Wounded Blow.
Blow.
Trying to think of cards specifically from that set.
Yeah, in Limited, there was not a lot that synergized outside of Guardian in Welcome to Rathe. It was mostly Guardian that ability was meant for, but since there's been 5 sets since Welcome to Rathe, the list of viable attack actions has expanded with a few specific callouts, primarily being Rouse of the Ancients. I mean, honestly, that's out best.
Is it because Zealous is only a 2, isn't it?
Zealous Belting's a 2.
But it can give itself go again.
Outmuscle is a cost 3 rare from Monarch that can give itself go again. No, I think it actually gives itself. If it's not defended by a card with equal or greater power, then it has go again. So you could dominate that, and then it could give itself go again inherently. But Monarch released much later than Rathe, so.
I think coming into this, it's really important to note that Bravo had a lot of cards that had a certain keyword in them, and we kind of hinted at it beforehand, and that was Crush. So Dorinthia had Reprise in the first set. Katsu had Combo.
Oh, yeah.
And then Reinar had Intimidate. Bravo comes in with his Crush ability on most of his attacks. And that is that there might be an effect if it deals X amount of damage. So it might be that your cards lose go again, or your attacks are cut in half, or your attacks can't gain dominate. Or there's a really mean one that just makes you discard 2 cards. And actually has recurred in later sets with different Guardian cards. But all of those can be mean. So when we're building this Bravo deck, we come together what do you guys think is the appropriate amount of red, yellow, blue deck construction?
I mean, easiest is you want little to no yellows because everything's so high cost that, I mean, in constructed decks you can get away with probably running up to, I've seen 6, even 8 yellows in some deck lists.
I would say 6 to 9 is the sweet spot.
Yeah, it's generally just Righteous Cleansing or maybe a Tome of Fandal, and I've seen people run yellow Zealous Beltings in there for a little flavor. But the majority of the deck's gonna be blues, hands down. Like, you probably want at least 60 to 70% blues, just because everything's so high cost, and Guardians are gonna play the long game. At least OG Bravo is gonna play the long game.
Yep.
It's really
he's not gonna be
interesting that it's really interesting that he's someone with the highest attack. Even now, like, Guardian cards are some of the most scary, and yet you're looking at someone who's going to play a longer game rather than be very aggro and kill you in a couple turns.
It's just because so much of their big actions are just so resource heavy that you have to bide your time and wait for your opponent to have a slow hand, and you come back swinging.
Yeah.
It's because you just be caught with your pants down.
You're going to do a lot of setup, and the problem with it is that they advertise it pretty clearly. You could start out with they're going to make a Seismic Surge somehow, which makes their Guardian attack action cards cost 1 less for each Seismic Surge token. The next turn, exactly. So if you see them making that, your clear indication is something big is coming. Then they're probably going to place some type of aura in the field, usually a Blessing of Deliverance, or
Showtime
itself, or what's the one?
Towering Titan.
Thank you. It's unfallenly expensive, but emerging dominance. Yeah, I was thinking emerging power. Thank you. Yeah, emerging power, which is like a cost 4. Your next Guardian attack action card on your next turn gets like +4 or 5 or something. Crazy, like, powerful setups, but because they're just advertising that information to you, all you have to do on your turn is disrupt that. And if you disrupt it, then you've just, like, powered them down, essentially, for a turn, and they have to rebuild that momentum into attacking you again. But if you don't have that turn to actually stop them, you're in for a world of hurt. Oh my gosh, there's so much pain coming your way.
By disrupt, we're talking like forcing them to discard cards, forcing cards out of hand to avoid on-hit triggers for you, frostbite, extra cost for additional actions, removal of ability to play more than 1 action card per turn. This is actually an area that Ranger, ironically enough, excels at being disruptive. Ninja can, like, sneak in on-hit effects and be kind of obnoxious for Guardians, where they're like, I can't let them draw 2 cards off of Mask, even though I really would like to have all my cards in hand, I'm going to block something. So when you see that big setup, that's when you have to be as devious and as disruptive as possible to try and basically knock them off and waste that entire turn of prep that they did. You might not push
that is your opening to get back in the game.
Yeah, you're pushing them back on their back foot and not letting them actually swing for easily 12 to 17 damage on a really gnarly attack. Often dominated.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if it's dominated, then it's even worse because you're going to get hit by a crush effect.
Yes.
If the damage is high enough.
Now, that said, there are certain times when you are playing as a Guardian and you're like, oh my gosh, I can afford to dominate this Disable, which has a crush effect. Is it worth it, though? Because at that point, you're guaranteeing you're only going to get 1 card out of their hand at most. And -1 counter on an equipment from Disable, or -4 to their next attack is like, okay, well, if it's a ninja and they're going to Kadachi for 1, that -4 is wasted. So why am I going to spend 2 resources to dominate this attack and guarantee only 1 card out of their hand when maybe I could play an aura or save it or try and force a pummel or something instead that would cost 2 that gives me more value either this turn or next turn. So with Bravo, you can sometimes trap yourself into being like, I'm going to do this amazing turn and push 11 damage, but then you completely empty the gas tank for the next 2 turns, and your opponent has a full viable attacking hand because you at most force 1 card out.
It's a good example of a hero who wants to understand how their opponent works, so you can punish them in the correct ways.
Very good.
Spinal Crush is not. Yeah, Spinal Crush is not gonna have the same effect on another Guardian as it does like a Ninja or I don't know,
Ranger or Boomblade.
Yeah, anyone who wants to get multiple attacks in a turn.
Right.
So
Knowing
you have your opponent well.
Super important. And that's not something we've talked about much, is sideboarding against your opponent.
Because even Crush Confidence can really stop certain hero types. Like if you're playing against a Chain and you get the Crush on a Crush Confidence, he cannot make a Soul Shackle for his turn, which for Chains, sometimes that really makes their turn from 2 attacks to 3 to 4 attacks if they get the momentum going. So doing something like that on someone, or on an Azalea or on a Dorinthia, you're stopping her from getting Dominate. You're stopping her from swinging her sword again, which is killer. But when you think about cards like
if you did Crush Confidence against Katsu, it's like, okay, he can't tutor next turn.
Yeah.
But who's to say he doesn't have a...
Yeah, who's to say he could even do it?
12 damage turn in his hand, he doesn't need to tutor.
Yeah.
So, again, knowing your opponent, Ben makes a very good point, is like, which attacks do I push the Crush into? Or which attacks do I just throw and get cards out of hand? And knowing when to pivot with Bravo from, I'm going to throw attack actions versus just a Nothos or some other Guardian weapon, so you're not running through those really high value attack actions early and off, so you have them late game.
You have to know when 2 damage but 3 cards from hand is more important than 8 damage but 1 card from hand.
Yeah.
When do you want that damage taken into account? Because 8 damage may seem like a great turn, but the person could have been thinking, well, I only wanted this one or these 2 cards anyway. I can do amazing things with 2 cards. You really just saved me the trouble, and then they just wipe the board with you.
So I think what we've kind of hinted at is really the reason why Bravo needs those setup turns, and why he's so strong is having just him being very telegraphed. And I think that's why he's very defensive at the start. He wears you down, takes all the tricks out of your deck. Then once he realizes this is just a game of attrition, then he can come back and hit you for 11 damage, 10 damage, etc. And we've talked about some cards that I think that are very important to Bravo, or just even the Guardian package, and why that's so key. So Kayla, a few seconds ago, I think, mentioned Crush Confidence. And just to go through and talk about what that does, that's if it deals 4 or more damage to a hero, they lose all card effects and activated abilities. So even just what we talked about, Katsu can't tutor. Dorinthia can't attack with the sword again.
Intimidate.
Off himself.
Well,
actually, no. Off anything. Because if Intimidate's on the card, it won't trigger. Yeah.
If Crush Confidence deals 4 or more damage to a hero, they lose all hero card effects and activated abilities until the end of next turn.
You didn't say hero the first time, so I took it as card effects.
The Barraging Beatdown would still...
Beatdown would still intimidate.
That still intimidates.
But you do not get to Intimidate off of discarding
Attack 6
or more.
And those are just the Welcome to Rathe heroes. The more recently released heroes are actually more disrupted by losing their hero ability.
You disrupt Levia, she just dies.
Yes. The only one that doesn't care is Dash. Just like Crush Confidence.
I was just thinking of Dash.
You broke my toys. Pew pew.
Oh.
So Spinal Crush was mentioned a few seconds ago, and I don't remember who mentioned that. I'm sorry, but it's if it deals 4 or more damage. It looks like Ben mentioned that a second ago.
Yeah.
If it deals 4 or more damage to a hero, action cards and activated abilities and attacks they control lose and can't gain go again during their next action phase. So immediately that's a card to stop. We talked about Dorinthia. If she wants to go again for that sword, take it out. That's something just to like dominate and like. I know you're not gonna swing again with it.
Now there are ways to get around it because
lead the charge.
Lead the charge, time skippers,
action points are.
Lead the charge wouldn't, because the card itself would lose go again. So you couldn't play something else to get an action.
Time skippers into lead the charge.
There you go.
A later hero will talk about Dash, her boots. She could boost a card. The card itself won't get go again, but she's activated Achilles. You could technically break it and get an action point. Mm-hmm. Lexi and Briar can both blink, which is just an action of gain an action point. There are ways around it, but it's going to be more convoluted, and it's probably not very likable. You can pull them off in the same turn you got your confidence crushed.
It's a lot more toolbox.
Yeah, when your spine gets crushed, there's not a lot you can do, but there are now other ways to get around it, but it's still hard.
Right.
It's unreliable.
We haven't even covered some of the other crush ones like Disable or Buckling Blow or
Cranial Crush.
Cranial Crush. Or Cartilage Crush.
No, Cranial Crush and Cartilage Crush.
Yeah, Cranial is super from Welcome to Rathe.
Yeah.
Cartilage is also mean. And then Crippling, Bravo's specialization from Welcome to Rathe.
And then the crippling of all crushes.
No, the Apex
There's the crippling. Apex.
Crippling Crush, Bravo specialization. If this deals 4 or more damage to target opponent hero, they discard 2 cards. They choose which
It is 2 random cards. So they do have to randomize them, which is even spicier. Yeah. That's the crippling part, is not the discarding the 2 cards, it's random. You don't even have a say in it. And that's crippling.
Right, you're a Kano running 1 Nourishing Emptiness. Oh, that's gone now.
No, they leave you the 1 Nourishing Emptiness.
With nothing to pay for.
Yeah, nothing to pay for. And you're like, I now have a red as Kano. This is useless.
So the decks, knowing when to dominate and who to dominate them against, how to build your sideboard, that is key on managing Bravo Showstopper.
Yep.
It's key on all forms of Bravo, but since we're talking about Showstopper today, yes.
Also, have the pummels ready. Just be ready for pummelings.
If he has resources and an extra card, it's a pummel.
If they have a card in the arsenal and 2 resources open, just assume it's a pummel.
Well, and that goes back to like psychology, like we talked about, like with Rhinar, when you intimidate and they're just staring at that card.
And you're like,
this is the opposite now.
Yeah.
You just stare at that arsenal card with 2 resources floating. Jumps on us. It's an energy pot for like 2 turns later. But your opponent's like, that's definitely a pummel.
That's
I
a
have
red
to overblock.
pummel. It's a red pummel.
I gotta block 12 against this 6 damage attack so I cannot get crushed. And it's like, nerd, this is not the pummel, but you.
I'm gonna draw 4 and then the bluffing itself can disrupt turns because if that happens, someone's gonna be like, I'm gonna block through 3 cards. It's like, I'm gonna draw up. No, they don't have anything they're gonna do now. Probably Arsenal pass.
Right. Worst case scenario, you saved your pummel for another turn because they overblocked.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, it wasn't a pummel at all. It was a defense reaction.
Staunch. It's a blue staunch this entire time.
So what's really important to note about pummel is it gets missed commonly. Where I've seen it. It's a +3 to club or hammer, but also gives +3 to an action card with 2 that costs 2 or greater. Yep. And this is the important thing that's forgot. If it hits, the defending hero discards a card. So that's it's also...
That's the one.
That's the one they get to choose. I never forget when that happens.
Oh gosh, no.
It's like it's hard to get a pummel from the Anothos. It's even worse when they do it on just something.
Rouse the Ancients.
Not even rouse. It's 2 or greater, so it could just be anything that you're like.
Command and Conquer.
It could be a
Command and Conquer, yeah.
Command and Conquer. Well,
Command and Conquer is the evil one.
The evil one, like the most stupid one's like a Zealous Belting, where it's like 5 go again, and you're like, that's so stupid. No, I'm not gonna block 5, and then they're like, cool, I'm gonna pummel it. It's now 9, and you discard a card, and I have go again. I know that's for 6.
Yes. And you
Pummel's
just
brutal.
15 damage
Yep.
as a guardian.
As a
You
guardian,
might even still have one card if you had one of those in your arsenal. Like, it's,
then you showtime. No, you don't.
Showtime,
You don't have the
you would-
resources.
yeah. But again, Bravo's all about prep. Maybe you have an energy potion.
Hmm.
He's one of the few heroes that we've talked about that does benefit from some of those potions.
Potion of Recompense, I think, is just the
Or
replacement.
Recompense?
Talisman of Recompense, thank you.
Yeah.
I think is a good replacement for any energy potions now, simply because you can play it and go again, so you can use it the same turn you play it.
There are some newer cards that benefit from creating an aura.
Yep.
And Talisman is not an aura.
Nope.
But it is a non-attack action.
Yes.
And that has some synergy in some Everfest stuff.
Rangers, be ready to break those items when you see them come out. And the Rangers have item breakage. I'm not sure about.
Well, now with Smashing Good Time,
Yeah.
Smashing
Generic now.
is accessed. Which
So-
Smashing Good Time, the new Plunder Run.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
Techie Plum. It's not as mean because you don't draw during your attack phase, but it is a solid sideboard consideration for a lot of the heroes that rely on items, dash,
Ash.
and a lot of other heroes that like those talismans, those amulets, those other things that
Valda's definitely one.
sit on their
Islander's definitely gonna be one. She can just play him for free.
Yeah, so in Blitz,
Boom. Boom.
Smashing Good Time is going to
Potions.
be pretty common, I think, as a at least include in Blitz and sideboard and constructed.
So I'm
Add
moving back
stand-
to Bravo a little bit because we're talking about, well, I guess the items are relevant. We were talking about a lot of other stuff.
It's a generic. Robert can run Smashing Good Time.
Yeah, I can. I guess we.
At the same time.
I mean, if you have it in Arsenal and you play it as your prep, that's +3 onto, I don't know, a
Yeah.
thump. Well,
I'm
if
gonna-
you have a Smashing Good Time in Arsenal and you decided to run them against your opponent, there's a Guardian attack action from Tales of Aria, Thump, that if you, from Arsenal, Smashing Good Time, any +1, +2, or +3, depending on the color strip, you've now given Thump Dominate for free.
And you discard a card when it hits.
So a red Thump is 6.
Red Thump is 6.
So then
Yep.
on a red Smashing Good Time, red Thump,
9.
you're pushing 9, Dominate. You will discard a card. There's very few heroes that can stop 9 with one
Yep.
card without sacrificing equipment, and usually valuable equipment if they can.
And if they got an item out, you just destroyed it.
That talisman that they're hoping to use next turn, gone.
I love Thump. I love Thump as a Guardian card. It's such a good card. Because you can just Goliath Gauntlet a Thump. And now it's 8 Dominate, discard a card. It's so good.
So we've talked about a lot of good attacks, and you'll notice that most Guardian attacks are going to be in the range of the 3s, the 4s. Go Again exists in Guardian, but I don't think you're going to see Guardian use many different actions during his turn. It's usually going to be all for one.
Mostly through like zealous belting is where the go again usually comes from. Arouse.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
new Bravo throws that into the wind, but Bravo, Showstopper. Yeah, he's all about
Yeah.
that one big swing.
yeah.
The
So
good
we
old
talked
boy.
about some equipment. Kayla mentioned Goliath Gauntlet, which is actually really good for Bravo.
Super good.
+2 to an attack. And I forget the. Is there any?
It's cost 2 or greater. Destroy. It gets +2.
And it is an act. It has to be done in
Yeah,
advance.
it is an action. You have to do it in advance. It does have Go Again, so there's no worry there.
It does not work on weapons.
It does not work on weapons, and it has to be 2 or greater. But if you're a Guardian, I would be very surprised if you're running anything less than 2 or greater, unless for some reason you're like, I'm going to do Scar for Scar because I'm typically at lower health.
Until I'm
Each-
not. You're the end.
Until
E-Strike's
I'm
like one I would think of.
What is it?
E-Strike's one I would think of. That
You got to put a
probably
card.
into some Guardian lists.
In limited, maybe. Like, if you're in a draft and you have an E-Strike in front of you, take it. Like, easily. But I would not put it in a constructed deck.
I wouldn't put it over most anything.
Now,
Because
there's
you have to
gonna be-
discard a card, so you're thinking if you have a full hand with the E-Strike, if you play E-Strike, discard a card or bottom deck a card, and then you have 2 cards left, can you, at best you're doing hammer for those.
Still fair.
Best you can do is hammer, which if it's 2 cost 3 or greater cards, you're at least coming in for 11. But you could also do that with Zealous Belting and you still, like...
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's sort of same ratio, but you get more resources.
You are also preserving a little bit more card library by 1 if you do the E-Strike route, because you're burying that card, you're not discarding it.
Yeah.
It goes on the bottom of your library, it doesn't go into the graveyard. There is some argument to Art of War in Guardian as well, because you can give your next Guardian attack go again on those rare times that you have the ability to play 2. And once again, going back to Thump, give your attack actions this turn, +1/+1, boom, automatically you're coming in for 7 dominate if it hits discard a card off Thump, and that is payable with 2 blues.
Cards. Draw cards options are always good.
Yeah.
Going back to Goliath Gauntlet. So you're staying with the equipment here.
Yeah, if
I
you're
don't
not
know
going to
how I
run
feel
Goliath
about Crater Fist.
I like the block.
It blocks.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It blocks. And with Guardian, that's important. Because if you can block with equipment
you're not
on your setup turns, you're not blocking with the cards from your hand you need. It's costly for that block, but you are essentially paying to live longer with Crater Fist.
It's going to be crucial on the turn you're ready to pivot the game into you're just going to keep swinging big at them.
Yeah.
When you like the mid-late game, those blocks are going to be a big deal.
But it is very hard to do Crater Fist into Bravo into a big attack.
Oh yeah, no.
There's too many resources that you need in that instance, because you're going to need 5 for setup. God forbid how much your card's going to cost for you to do the attack after that. So
you're really limiting yourself to like Disable, which is a 4-cost Guardian attack.
Yeah.
Which has Crush, so it qualifies, but your options with Titan's Fist just from a 4-card hand are very narrow.
Crater's Fist.
Yeah, not Titan's Fist, Crater Fist.
Goliath Gauntlet, I think, is a better, cheaper option. Like, it is only a +2, Crater Fist is +3. You don't get the defense, but on the turn that you really need to make it happen, you can turn a Pulverize from 14 to 16. Or you can turn a Crippling Crush from a 9 to an 11 for free.
11 to 13.
Oh, it's 11! It costs 9. I got the numbers back. It's 11 to 13. And if you dominate that 13, that's a lot of damage your opponent's going to take. Possibly even lethal.
There is an argument, though, with Nerves of Steel being a card from Everfest, that Crater Fist is stronger now against the dashes, against the Kadachi Katsus.
Yeah.
That is good.
You can be like, if you break the combat chain, dash. I'm just going to block with Crater Fist all day.
Again.
And just neutralize your entire pistol of 2 unless they're running a way to buff that pistol, which at the moment there's really only 1. It's Plasma Purifier. Yeah, so with Nerves of Steel from Everfest, Crater Fist did get an upgrade.
Yeah.
But it is still the more expensive, I will use this one time probably the entire constructed match, if I'm lucky.
But the turn you use it will probably be the end.
Right.
Hopefully for the opponent, not for you.
Hopefully.
They pull out an unmovable from Arsenal.
Kano with the blue unmovable.
Yeah, unmovable is one of the things that actually Bravo is equipped to run since he has so many blues. Staunch Response is another good defense reaction.
Staunch is very good.
Oh, Staunch is good.
And you can run blue and red staunches side by side. Again, no yellows.
No.
And the blue staunch is
blocks
a fantastic block.
7?
But it's block 5 base on blues, so red is 7.
Yeah, plus what?
2.
I think it's 2, 3, 4 blue, yellow, red. I could be wrong. You might want to pull that card up, Andrew.
Which one?
Staunch response, because I can't remember because when you pitch 2 to pay for it, it's 5 defense. But as a reaction, you can pay 4 more and give it a buff to the defense. Yeah. But I can't remember if it's like 2, 3, 4, 3, 4.
See, I think it's 5, 6, 7, and they all add 4. Because I think it's 9, 10, 11 when it's maxed out.
Are you sure?
7, 3, 5 plus 3, and 6 plus 3.
Okay, so it's 5, 6, 7.
5, 6, 7 plus 3.
So it's 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
Okay, I was close. Okay.
Which is an unmovable.
A red unmovable blocks 8 at best.
Yeah.
Arsenal red unmovable is 8 at best.
Staunch.
Red for 6 resources.
6 resources, 2 blues, 10. But blocks 10.
These are all fantastic cards for a go tall or have these big damage turns, but for go wide, you're going to find yourself feeling very unoptimized.
It's not like the blue stomp. You have the option of defending 5, which is a reasonable mid-range block, but then you can, if you need it, you can pump it up.
Yeah,
right.
It's more of like, I will block 5, and if they're coming in for 6, you're like, I'll take the 1. But if they do something like a Razor Reflex, or maybe they've got something that they can pummel, then you have that option to say, I'm going to bump that up.
And it is important to note that Staunch is once per turn you can do that. You can't keep paying the extra if somehow you had the resource. But it is still usually once is enough.
Yeah.
So going back on the equipment train, we got a little to decide with defense. What about headgear? What do you think is the best headgear?
Okay. They have a very good common head equipment that does block for 1, so you do get a block out of it, which is nice. But it's Helm of Eisen's Peak, and it has an ability that no other hero can get other than cards in their deck reliably, and it's to gain an intellect till the end of the turn. Now, it doesn't have go again. It's not an instant. It is an action. So your turn, unless you have a way to give go again, is going to be doing that helm. But if it's more of like, I've done a Blessing of Deliverance, now I'm going to make a Seismic Surge. You know what? I've got a resource floating. Let me pop Helms of Ivan's Peak. I'm going to Arsenal card and draw 5. I've now got like 6 cards total for my next turn. It's going to be killer.
It is also a really good equipment for those tempo shifts where you're like, okay, I've been blocking for the last 4 turns. I've taken 5 damage. I've watched them throw dozens of cards at this point at me. I have 1 red that I saved after blocking on purpose. I'm going to pitch it, crack Eisen's Peak, get 5 cards, hopefully just eat a medium-sized hit, and then steal tempo back with all 5 cards, probably 1 in Arsenal, coming right after them. And it's the only hero that can reliably get that because of it being a head equipment.
Yeah,
it's just always there.
They have access to it at any point. Whereas cards like Nourishing Emptiness or Pursuit of Knowledge, you have to encounter them in your deck.
And make them work.
And make them hit. So the chances of that happening compared to just popping in equipment is not as reliable. Now, does that beat the utility of Arcanite Skullcap?
Skullcap!
I don't know.
It just kind of depends what your game plan is. If you're going the more control route, just that extra block's going to be super helpful.
So...
Volcano!
Chest equipment. We'll just move on.
Earthflow or Tectonic?
Tectonic. Bravo.
Tectonic.
Bravo is 100% Tectonic.
But mostly because the meta has shifted away from insane card draw. There's still card draw that's like crazy.
I mean, we're not talking about Bravo who shall not be named.
No.
Captain Planet.
Now Bravo, Bravo Showstopper, he wants Tectonic plating. It blocks for 2. It makes a Seismic Surge. Your stuff's cheap now. You can do so much with that.
Well, the big thing is, Guardian cards, when they made Welcome to Rathe, look at the cost of all of the good Guardian attacks. They are 1 above a reasonable pitch.
Yeah.
A Disable for 4. make a surge on the prior turn. Now it's a 1-pitch blue.
A 1 pitch.
Crippling Crush, 7. Make a surge. Now it's a 2-pitch blue. It is designed, tectonic plating, to slot perfectly into Showstopper.
Yeah. It makes it from a 3-turn pitch or a 3-card pitch to a 2-card pitch,
right?
Which then makes the Bravo ability easier to use.
Or you're choosing: do I make a Seismic this turn and only pitch 2 cards, or do I plan to pitch 3 and use his ability in lieu of making a Seismic this turn? Because pitching 3 blues to play a Crippling Crush with Dominate from Bravo's ability is 9.
Yeah.
Whereas I could pitch anything on my current turn, make a Seismic. Next turn, pitch 2 blues, and have another card in hand, like Pummel. And so that's that gamification of what does one resource really mean.
Yep.
And tectonic plating literally was like, oh, it gives you a choice now.
Yeah.
Bravo's ability, built into a high pitch turn, or Seismic Surge, low pitch, versatility, threatening other things that your opponent has to react to instantly.
It also is just good for those turns of, I could block, I have a card in Arsenal, which costs 4. If I make a Seismic Surge, I can block with 3 cards from my hand, take no damage, and still come out with something for 7 attack, or 6 attack, for 1 card. So it just makes their defense game so much better, because it's I only need to keep 1 card to pay for my attack. I can use 3 cards to block. It's wonderful. They take no damage. They are so good at blocking out damage.
Or if you don't.
But here's where it really ties in. Blessing of Deliverance costs 2. You Blessing of Deliverance, set that up for your next turn. You got 1 resource left over. What are you gonna do with that 1 resource? You can't swing a Nothos with 1. You know what you can do? Make a Seismic Surge.
That's
so what if I don't have
Yeah.
a fancy tectonic plating and I don't have all the money to spend on that? What's another good equipment?
Deep Blue.
Did you go Deep Blue over Cross Trap?
Yes.
But Deep Blue is better.
Deep Blue is so much better because you can use Deep Blue to pay for Bravo instead of using Deep Blue to pay for cards. Hardened Cross Trap limits you to attack action cards, cost 2 less. Deep Blue lets me do, I'm going to pay for Bravo, and then I'm going to use that 1 left over and 1 card to pay for this 4-cost attack, which is now coming in for Dominate.
Yeah, but if you're doing that on Deep Blue, and I feel like it's about the same, so it's a matter of...
It's not. If you get stuck, and this is the worst thing for a Bravo player, to get stuck with a 4-red hand. If you have a 4-red hand, your turn's over. You just make a Seismic Surge, Arsenal, you're done. You cannot do anything.
So tell me about the efficiency of Heart and Cross Strap versus Deep Blue in this argument. Because Deep Blue, you have to put a card on the bottom.
Okay.
Versus Heart and Cross Strap, you just get 2. You were talking about Deep Blue, you can pay for Bravo's ability. But you could also Heart and Cross Strap to pay for the ability of the card you're going to play. And still pay for Bravo's ability with the cards you're going to have. So even if you have a hand of all reds, you have to bottom deck 1 to get 3 with Deep Blue, or with Heart and Cross Trap, you get 2 off a card, and you have 1 pitch from that card you'd have to bottom with Deep Blue. I feel like it's coming out the same.
The math does work out.
The math does. But
again, you can't use those 2.
You can't use those 2 on anything.
Aura. You can't use those 2 for a
an action.
Mid-turn action that's not attacking. So yes, it is the same math when you are attacking with that exact cost. Say you want to leave 2 floating after your attack. You can't do that with Heart and Cross Trap. But if you do Deep Blue, that allows you to pitch a cost 3 red, pitch a cost 3 red, Deep Blue, whatever. I have a card in hand and I have 2 resources floating for my weapon. I can now threaten a pummel, whereas Heart and Cross Trap, I don't get anything for my weapon attack.
Yeah.
Deep Blue fuels the weapon and fuels the prep turns. Whereas Heart and Cross Trap is my Crippling Crush costs 5 now.
Deep Blue isn't, you don't pitch, you put it at the bottom of your deck, though.
Which is the same as...
It's essentially the same as pitching, it's just going there immediately.
Yeah.
I'm not saying for a Nothos. I'll just say it. Like, if you pitch a yellow, one of your yellows, and you pitch a red, that gives you a 3. Then you Deep Blue a card. If both of those red and yellow cards are that cost 3, Anothos is going to swing for 6, and you're threatening that pummel.
Yep.
You can't do that with Heart and Cross Trap at all. That's just not feasible with the way that the cards work. But Deep Blue is the same math, but allows you to do that.
It might just come down to how your deck is built, honestly.
Yeah.
Because there is an argument for Heart and Cross Trap. There really is.
Yeah, there is.
I mean, if you want things to be cheaper, but I think having 3 resources is more valuable than just having something that's cheaper.
Oh, so are you saying that if I have, well, no. Are you saying it modifies the cost of the card? So it's not a 3-cost card, it is actually, I have a 1-cost card that I've played, rather than a 3-cost.
I mean, that Heart and Cross Trap is the next attack action card you play costs 2 less.
Yeah.
Right, it doesn't change the cost of the card.
It doesn't change the cost, it just is making it this one moment cost 2 less. So it costs, for a card, costs 2. But having Deep Blue, I have 1 extra resource that can be used for something else instead of just making 1 card cheaper. Which, like the voice said, can be used for building up a pummel turn, can be used for making a Bravo effect work, can be used for swinging a hammer.
And you also have to think, when were these cards printed, right?
Yeah.
Also, Cross Trap is a Welcome to Rathe common chest equipment.
Yes.
Deep Blue, Tales of Aria, common chest equipment. So the ideas behind those sets were different. Deep Blue was designed as a last ditch, you're going to be able to pay for a turn you couldn't. Heart and Cross Trap was, you have planned, and we'll be using this on a specific set of attack actions that you're looking for to prep into. I do find Deep Blue more versatile.
I think it's more versatile is the thing.
They do have, again, the math is the same. 1 card goes at the bottom of your library, and you get 3 resources, as opposed to a red, and then your next attack costs 2 less, which is 3 resources.
But we're also looking at it with the example of we have a full hand of cards. Let's say you defended with everything and you have 1 card left in hand and it's a yellow. That's not even useful to swing an Othos. If you use Deep Blue or Titan's Fist, yeah, you cannot swing any of the Guardian.
I can see that argument.
So now you can take this card that only pitches 2, put it to the bottom of your deck, break Deep Blue, and now you can at least swing your hammer. It's only coming in for 4, but at least you're not just wasting a turn.
Yeah, depending on what it is, though, you might want to. This would be good for the comments. If you think Heart and Cross Trap or Deep Blue would be better, this would actually. This is an argument. I don't think that will.
I want a shirt that says.
We're not gonna solve this here.
No, this is gonna go on.
It's like the DG shirt with a picture.
I want a white T-shirt, like the shirts that look like the tuxedos. But I want it to be the blue vest of Deep Blue, and it says Deep Blue Team.
All right, so here's something we can all agree on.
In the pocket of the jacket.
With Guardian leg equipment, we can all agree here that the best leg equipment does not exist.
100%. It's very toolbox.
Hi. Iron Rot? Mage Masters. No.
Runaways.
Actually, yeah, I think personally, depending on your deck, Mage Master, if you plan on slotting in a Tome of Fyendal, or like Mage Masters might be good for that. Just because, like,
that's the only reason to run it.
So as you can see, equipment. Every time we talk about equipment that derails, Guardian.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because later on they come. If you
do literally anything, just put spellbound creepers on them, and they'll find a way to make it work.
All jokes aside, I do think that Mage Masters is the best. Time Skippers,
possibly Ironhide
against another Guardian. I'd say Time Skip.
It's super matchup dependent.
Yeah, it is. Well, that's the beauty in both Blitz MCC is that you can
mostly Blitz.
Mainly Blitz, but you have the option for both, and especially with Guardian, you're going to fine tune your head, chest, and arms, so you can have sort of 2, maybe 3. Because if you are doing anything, if you're facing Arcane boots, like Null Room boots, immediately put those in. Because
they've given you the easiest gift of
the easiest gift of this is the easiest exchange ever. Null Room boots for nothing. But with Blitz, you have 11 slots to fill for equipment, and you could do 5 different boots for Guardian,
And then weapon,
and then
Goliath Gauntlet, Tectonic, and Helm or Arknight, one
Yep.
of the two, and boom, there you go.
So you have the options, but I think it mainly depends on the matchup you're going up against and also the type of deck you are playing.
So, what we learned here today, Guardians have a great common helm. Guardians,
Yes.
Everything else is debatable. Guardians can defend very well, but they can also send out attacks
Yep.
at a very high
They're
rate.
they're the hyper beam.
Yeah.
Of all the heroes.
Tell us what you mean by that.
So, because everyone should know what a hyper beam is, that it's a big attack from a Pokemon, but the Pokemon then has to use a turn to recharge, and that's Guardians. They're going to prep stage, huge attack. All right, I got to recover from that, so I'm going to do another little prep, and then another huge attack. So it's like it's a pattern. It's a big attack and then a little bit of a step back, and then maybe more of a step back as they prep up some more, and then another big attack. And I call them the hyper beam.
Adequate statement. Building the deck, you're going to need a lot of blues, but not anything that is a deep blue. You'll want just normal blue. No, I'm just kidding. You might want deep blue.
One deep blue, one deep blue.
Oh God.
And it goes right here.
Close to your heart.
Right.
Closest to your heart.
All right. So yeah, hopefully you got some interesting things out of this, and maybe it's been entertaining to hear us argue a little bit. But yeah, so hopefully we'll come back to you with what's the next set after Welcome to Rathe? It is
Arcade Rising.
So who knows what we'll talk about? We have 4 heroes we could talk about on that next.
Wizards.
Rex.
Velocity.
Pew pew. Anyway, I started blasting.
So there I was. Started blasting.
The beginning of Rune Blades also. We can talk about.
And then there's Azalea tier.
And there's this
Anyway, I started making rune chant tokens.
So there I was. I started making embodiments. And then I got nerfed.
So, thank you guys for joining in. This has been Ben, Kayla, the Wind, and myself, the 86, talking. Oh, there's some figures just breezing on by. All right. Have a good one. Thank you.